and welcome. I'm Tom, your host, and this is the DROPCAST Movie Poster Podcast. This format is part of the Instagram blog Drop, and you can find us under @DropMacOfficial. We do reviews, news, and interviews that all have to do with the film business. Today we will talk to the very talented and always fun to be around Oliver Barrett, who has worked with all the great galleries and turned out some of my favorite pieces since I started collecting. So stay tuned and head over to our Instagram profile @DropMacOfficial to follow along with the art we are talking about, or check us out on YouTube for the video version. So now let's get started. Welcome, Oliver. How you doing, man?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Yeah, can't complain. Been a long day, and we did a double interview, so people know I wear the same clothes. I didn't change, so it's all good. But
It's almost time for breakfast for dinner.
I mean, it's
We've been interviewing for that long.
yeah. For me, it's almost like a night snack. So I could have actually breakfast maybe again. So,
Yes, breakfast for dinner.
okay, but yeah, the way my show works, or the interviews I set them up, is that I pick three pieces of your artwork that I'm really fond about, or that I want to know more about. And the first one I picked is your Star Wars piece for Movie's Death, and this is a great piece on the cover. I really love it. I wish there was a print for it, but could you tell me the story behind it? And is there going to be a print?
I don't know if there's going to be a print. I think the reason the image does or did as well as it did is because I had approached it as if were going to be a print, sort of trying to squeeze every little bit out of that image that I could. So it's like, if I do a really good job on this cover, maybe it'll be a poster. Because originally it was going to be the cover, and then the art was going to be adapted to a couple of pint glasses. But
Cool.
The timeline ran a little bit too tight for me, and I had run into a situation where I couldn't revise the artwork quickly enough to meet the new deadline, because some of the revisions that they had were not the revisions from the Star Wars folks were pretty extensive. It was sort of things like a couple of the Knights of Ren. The one dude has a big rifle, and he was sort of aiming it. If we're looking at the image, it was horizontally. He's aiming the rifle, and there's a bunch of stormtroopers that are doing the same thing, and they were like, well, we don't want the gun violence, the implied gun violence.
Okay,
and I was like, well, it makes sense. I'm not going to, put up a big stink about it. But there wasn't really time for me to redraw that dude, because this was Rise of Skywalker came out in December last year. And I think this was due, I want to say, in the beginning of September.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think that's when I bought it.
Yeah. It might have been a little bit before that, but the reason I bring it up is because the timeline for this stuff is way ahead of the theatrical release.
Yeah.
And because it was Star Wars, there was intense security around everything.
Yeah, I was just wondering how much you saw.
And they didn't. There wasn't anything about the Knights of Ren or anything like that at the time. And it was a requirement to put them on the glass, the dark side glass.
Yeah.
And there was nothing. They couldn't send me anything, and they only appear in the other movies for 3 seconds. It's a real quick flashback.
Yeah.
So what I ended up having to do is I just scoured all these forums and subreddits and stuff, and found people that had taken these, whatever it was, I don't know, probably 72 still frames of the whole thing. It's only a couple seconds.
Yeah.
And they had constructed, 3D printed masks.
I remember,
of all of them. And it wasn't great. It wasn't great reference, but it was enough because I was able to figure it out from there. But what happened was, because the whole thing was in profile, I had to figure that out. And then when the revision came in, it was I don't have time to figure this out again in a couple of days. So I ended up going to another artist who did a great job. But anyway, there was still the cover, and the cover itself had its own, laundry list of things to change, mostly because I was trying to get it done quickly. And while I was happy with it, I wasn't as vigilant over some of the details as I really should have been, because again, this is Star Wars, so you have to make sure that your details are on point. And that includes things like having the half ends on the X-Wings instead of the full engines from the original, having the right radar dish on the Millennium Falcon, which I had to change 2 different times because I got it wrong twice, which I didn't
Okay.
even know. I thought I got it right the first time,
Yeah.
and turns out I was wrong both times. A lot of stuff like that, like using the
Who does
wrong
like who checks that, for example?
Disney.
Disney. They know, or do they have guys to know? Is it Pablo Hidalgo who does like basically everything, or Dave Filoni
Oh no,
checking it?
I think it was just from like a general like the marketing team. Like
Oh, okay.
they just sent over like a list of stuff to change.
Yeah.
And again, like I tried to stay on top of it as best as I could. Like again, I was pumped to do this.
Hmm.
But at the same time, there was so many things that, and I tend to do this a lot where there's like a big sort of, key confrontation sort of thing and in a piece like that.
Yeah.
And then with the remaining space that is too open just to leave as a negative space, I'll sort of just fill it with like rocks or debris, or in this case, it's ships
Yeah.
and like the lasers and stuff. And I had sort of copy and pasted it a little bit in the sketch, and then I ran out of time and ended up sort of doing the same thing in the drawing where it was pretty much like the same ship a couple of times,
Yeah.
and those ships were all wrong. So it was like, you've got the wrong ship here, 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 and here, and here, and here. And I'm like, cool.
Oh
These guys probably
man.
think I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah,
But
but
it worked out. They were happy with it in the end. But yeah, that was that one.
are you a big Star Wars
And
fan in that regard, or?
yeah, I'd say so. I'm not the hugest Star Wars fan in the
Okay.
world, and I have, I got some notes. I got some things that I would, some things I'd change.
Okay. Cool.
But for the most part, I'm into it still.
Yeah. Well, how
Yeah,
did
that was an adventure.
yeah, how did you like Rise of Skywalker then?
Rise of Skywalker is like watching a highlight reel of dunks.
Okay.
It's like, man, this is fucking awesome. There's Star Destroyers coming out of the Earth. Palpatine's in it. The story doesn't make any sense,
It's a big
but
trailer.
there's tons of cool shit to look at. It's like watching Sports Center instead of watching, the game. It's like, man, I saw all the cool shit, but I didn't get the whole story.
Yeah. Okay, I understand.
So I loved it. I loved it for that reason. Do I think it's an objectively good piece of cinema or anything like that? No.
Okay.
Would I watch it again? Maybe I'll watch it later today. Yeah, I was entertained. I don't expect
Okay.
a whole lot of these things.
Yeah, entertain sounds good in my book. But yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna find me like fire YouTube and just breaking the thing over the coals and talking about
Yeah.
all the inconsistencies and blah blah blah. That's not me.
Yeah,
I had a good
I
time.
didn't do that either. I like the more I watched it, it got worse for me. But the first time
Mhm.
watching it, I came out like had a feeling satisfied, but then thinking about it and watching a second and a third and a fourth time, I got to the coal roasting, but I didn't do that. But I got this feeling.
Yeah, I all the newer Star Wars movies, my dad and I had sort of created this tradition of going to see them together,
Hmm.
but because I'm very much a person that I'll get really upset if something gets spoiled, so I have to see it
Yeah,
immediately when it comes out because I'm on the internet all day.
of course. Yeah.
So it's really easy to just accidentally spoil something. So I go to the first showing, and I went with and I ate a whole bunch of edibles, and then took an Uber. What is it? What's the luxury Uber?
Uber Black.
Like the
Is it
super
Uber
nice one?
Black?
Like, yeah, yeah, it's Uber Black. We took an Uber Black to the theater in silence. Watched the movie. He was pumped. I was like, that was cool. And I felt really good about it. And then I saw it again like 2 days later with my dad, and I caught myself being bored about 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not good. And then that feeling kept coming back because I knew it was coming, but I knew like there wasn't really going to be like a good resolution for the whole thing. And
Yeah.
that's when I was like, oh, not the best Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
But still entertained. I was entertained, but I caught myself like, oh man, there's still so much movie to go here.
Yeah, I understand. I understand the feeling. I had that too. I was lucky because I saw it in press screening, and so I saw it a day early or 2 days early, and yeah, it was weird going into it. But I remember Force Awakens was crazy because like When that came out, I saw it 2 days early as well, and it was crazy in that regard because like I was talking with like some other critics who was at the show, at the screening there, and we talked on the train, on the subway basically, and people were around, and we talked about Han Solo.
I
And,
know.
and then we realized, we shouldn't talk that loud, maybe. But it was, but nobody
Wow.
heard us, and yeah, it was crazy. But
I've got a similar story though, like about that scene. I had gone to see it with a friend of mine,
hmm
like opening night,
yeah,
and that scene happened, and it's, you know, silence. And two seats over, there's this big fat dude that's there by himself. Not there's anything wrong with going to movies by yourself. I do it all the time. I love it.
yeah, me too.
But it's silent, and you hear him go, go to hell. And then he started slowly sobbing.
Oh man.
Go to hell.
Oh man, that's tough. But I had this kind of, because I was like 2 days later I went to a midnight screening of the movie, and the fans were so hyped, they were talking the whole time, especially when it started. And I was like, what is going on? And I was like, guys, you better shut up. I saw the movie. I'm going to spoil everything for you if you don't shut up now. And they were quiet after that. So that was kind of good.
I'm gonna borrow that if I have to, even if it's not the truth.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I might not actually know what's gonna happen, but I'll
yeah,
just
yeah,
make something up if you're gonna keep talking.
yeah, exactly. Good point. Okay, the next poster we touched upon a couple weeks earlier in your The Dark Knight talk. It is Civil War. Your Civil War poster is really great, but it was a ton of work. You said you had a good story on that.
Well, it's not so much it's a good story. It's just an incredible amount of work that I created for myself without really thinking about
Uh
it.
huh.
And it's sort of one of those things where you really, really wanted to knock it out of the park, and you didn't have a good idea to start with. And in this case, it was, I think, the sketch that finally got chosen where everybody's fighting each other might have been like sketch number, I don't know, like 9 or 10,
Okay.
because I had just submitted concept after concept, and it became like an exercise in just sort of throwing stuff at the wall and hoping something would stick rather than feeling confident
Okay.
about
Yeah.
any of it. And that's something, but it usually leads to a lot of just drawing like crazy and covering the canvas
Yeah.
until something starts to appear and look good rather than having like a real path to follow and,
Yeah.
sort of order of operations to get through it to look good. This was like, okay, I'm gonna move Black Panther here, and I'm gonna move him in such a way that I don't have to draw the back of Vision because I don't really know how that's gonna work out when he's being thrown to the ground. Because the other hard part about this was, it's got all these superheroes in it, and they're fighting each other, and they're all good guys. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, how do you convey the struggle when it's really just about good guy versus good guy? There's no bad guy.
Yeah.
You just have everybody fight each other twice, and they take turns winning in
Yeah.
one image. Cool idea, except there's 12 heroes, and you gotta draw all of them twice. You got 24 heroes. Oh, and on top of that, I don't want to so that it looks different,
Yeah.
but I want this thing to feel like a real fight. So I'm gonna look at mixed martial arts and judo and stuff like that, stuff where people are really being hit in the face, people are being thrown, and it was a good idea, but again, it wasn't really developed enough for me to have a strong, efficient way to get through it. So it was a
Yeah.
situation where I'd find a couple of good images of like a hip toss or like a Superman punch or something like that, and then the angle's still not quite right to get the likeness right of the actor.
Yeah.
So then you have to like eyeball it and just trial and error it until it does look right. And I might have spent, I don't know, like as long as I would have spent on a different Mondo poster on maybe just a piece of that one.
Okay. So basically, this is 4 Mondo posters.
That difficult because like Yeah, pretty much, just in terms of time, because again, I don't have reference for Steve Rogers getting punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
You would think that it's there, but finding the angle that I would need where he's like, it looks like he's getting punched backwards into the camera, but he's still like in a spot where he can cover up a missing spot on some other character that I don't want to draw.
Yeah.
It was just so much trial and error that I don't know. I don't want to say that I wouldn't do it again,
Yeah.
but I don't want to make, all the characters fighting my shtick.
Yeah. That
Otherwise, my hand would fall off.
of course, yeah. But it's a beautiful piece, so I hope you will do it at some point again, maybe in a different form that is
It's actually because it wasn't really. It got to the point where Robert Mondo was like, "Why don't you just do what you did on the Birth Movies Death Batman versus Superman
Yeah.
cover?"
Okay.
Because that cover went Batman versus Superman 10 times.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much the same idea. Just spread it across all the characters instead of two of them.
Yeah.
And it was like the sketch part was fun, and getting it done is fun. I look at it now and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I pulled that off.
Yep.
But there was still like tons and tons of like moments of satisfaction while I was working on it, where I really like felt like, okay, that's starting to look like something, which is something you might not find if you have a really strong plan of how to execute a poster.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like, I know you're probably going to want to talk about Green Room, and Green Room was like the perfect storm of an efficient workflow, because I knew exactly what I wanted to do with the image. I knew where I wanted to crop it.
Yeah.
I knew how many colors and values I wanted to use, and I knew where the type was going to go, and it was done.
Yeah.
Like, the sketch was pretty much like the sketch of that is super close to what the final ended up being.
Yeah.
Whereas Civil War is miles apart.
Yeah.
But you're not going to find like the same like oh shit, if I move this here, this happens.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, that actually is how I arrived at that Green Room poster to begin with. It was like, if I move this over here, oh, that's the Black Flag logo. Even
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a second here, because that's my third piece. But I just want to say here that the Civil War is, I really love it. I love the color grading you did on there with this like muted look, and it's just a great piece of art. I'm very sad that I'm not owning one of these. So, but well, maybe at some
you
point.
might be able to do something about that.
Oh, okay,
we'll see.
That sounds good. Alrighty.
Another funny aside.
Yeah.
Though I'm not in Captain America Civil War, but Captain America Winter Soldier was filmed a couple of blocks from my house, which was cool at the time.
Yeah.
And then the first Avengers movie was also filmed in Cleveland, and there was like a casting call for extras, and I was like, oh man, I gotta get in there, it's gonna be so cool. And they called me, and I was an extra on the film, and it was the most boring experience of my entire life.
Yep, I got the image prepared, people. So here you can see good old Oliver with his glasses on, standing behind Captain America in Stuttgart, Germany, aka Cleveland.
Yeah, Stuttgart. Yeah, I got brushed by the shield a little bit.
Well, so is that kind of like being blessed by by the captain?
That was what, 2011? I can't recall. I know we were talking about it, and I'm pretty sure it was Chris Evans, but I'm not 100% sure it wasn't the stunt double that rushed me.
Yeah.
Either way, that shield touched his shoulder.
Are you did you do art back then? Did you create something so you could?
I did a post.
Did you get something signed?
No, I didn't. I think that was a couple months before there was that Gallery 1988 show about the Avengers, and then they had assigned a couple of artists to be in it.
Yeah.
I think Scott C was in it.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. He did this really cool thing that was like all of them standing on the back of the Hulk. The Hulk was just sort of like floating through the air like a parade float.
Yeah, Scott C. He's a good guy. Yeah.
Something that's just like a weird collage thing. Whatever.
Okay.
But Scott C. piece is great because he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He was on. I think 2 weeks ago. We had him on our show for a interview podcast.
Oh, I heard y'all talking about me.
Yeah. We did. He loves your art.
You really brightened my day. Lots of nice things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really did make my day. I was having a rough day that day.
Okay, that's good to hear that we could make your day.
Yeah, you did.
Great. Yeah, as I mentioned, the third piece I wanted to talk about is the Green Room one. I mean, the Green Room, I love that movie. It's very underrated, I have to say, but it's a really good movie. And Patrick Stewart, neo-Nazi, is always a nice sight. And yeah, this piece is just amazing. And as you just mentioned, Black Flag comes in here. But let us hear more about it from your perspective.
Sure. I saw that movie. I didn't see it in the theater, but I remember we got it right when it came out. And I had only maybe done like one or two posters with Mondo at that point. And they had emailed me a couple of months later asking if I wanted to do it. And I was like, oh, of course. But the stipulation was that there was no likeness rights for anyone in the film.
Yeah.
And at the time, like I mentioned, I had done The Martian before that, which had Matt Damon's clearance, and then I did Hoop Dreams before that, which had the two student athletes in it.
Oh, Hoop Dreams.
And those were both, you know, figurative based and portrait based. And at the time, I was still kind of figuring out, like, you know, how I fit into all these things and what I should do to certain briefs. And I was trying like really, really hard to do shit that I would see on Pinterest where I was like, oh, this is like kind of weird, rather than just sort of taking the what's the word? Like the training wheels off in a way.
Yeah.
Because it almost felt like I wanted to make sure I was doing like the coolest thing I could do. So I would start looking at what other people were doing. And once I decided to not do that and just trust myself, it seems like things really started to pick up. And this was like the first poster where I really did that, because there was that limit on not being able to use the likenesses. I had to figure something else out. So it was, okay, what else can I do? And rather than watch the movie again, which is sort of like my first instinct, I was like, okay, I'm going to think through it again in my head. And what do I remember? And then I ended up writing it down on paper. And there was like the stuff about like the dog.
Yeah.
And how, like, yeah, there was like a killer dog, but at the same time, it was just doing what it was told, which is, there's some rhetoric behind that, but I thought it was a pretty strong symbol for the film. And then there's the obvious, like the knife in the head, and then the arm and the machete.
Yep. Oh my God, yeah. This is.
Yeah, and I wanted to do something with the arm, but I just didn't know what. And I had done these two concepts before that where it was like a really close view of someone opening a door and a rabid dog behind the door, and then like the title was on the door. And it was a pretty cool idea, but I was like, you know what? I said I would do 3 sketches. I got these 2. I don't know what the hell else I'm going to do. And I just started sketching like a hand, like a chopped up hand. And then I started to notice like where the breaks were in the hand, in the paper. I was like, okay, if I move this one up and I move this one down and they look like little pieces of sushi.
Yeah.
That's the Black Flag logo. And it's such a goofy idea, and I know no one's going to go for it because they're not in the film, but it still just makes such perfect sense. I just throw it in anyway. Because I don't know if you've ever worked in like logo design or anything like that, but typically like you've heard stories about like, okay, the client wants like 3 or 4 things.
Yeah.
I got 3 good ideas. I'm going to throw this one in at the last second. I don't really care because I said I'd do 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And that's the one they pick.
Yeah.
And this is the same case. But it turned out this is the best out of the group. And it was like by a mile. And the funny part was that I don't remember hearing back about the sketches until MondoCon that year, which was like a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
And because MondoCon was coming up, I was really stressed about it. And I wasn't thinking about like, oh, they never got back to me about the sketches. And we were setting up, and I don't remember if it was Jay Shaw or if it was Rob, but they were like, hey man, yeah, just don't make the background green, and that thing's a winner, because the background was green.
Okay.
On the poster. And I was like, okay, does that mean that's the one you want me to do? Like, I never heard back. And like, oh yeah, let's do that. And then that was it.
Okay. What was the hand in like regular color, like skin color? Or?
No, it was like green on green.
Okay.
I didn't really know what I was doing. And again, like, I'm glad you brought that up, because the hand was in the drawing, and I asked them a couple times. I'm like, "Does this just look like the Incredible Hulk got his arm chopped up? Because this makes
Yeah.
it works fine. Like, don't worry about it. You're overthinking it." And then I think it was actually Eric Garza that had the idea to make the variant look like a DIY flyer.
Mm.
And I think that just sort of elevated the whole thing to another level, which is the really, really good part about working with Mondo on things like this is it's almost like if you put in the time and energy, they're going to come back with the same sort of energy.
Yeah, great.
And I thought this was a really good idea, and they came back with a good idea to elevate the variant to something that was higher beyond just, desaturating the colors.
Yeah.
And then that was sort of the beginning of me being like, okay, I at least have to try to do something significantly different with the variant.
Yeah.
And I pretty much stuck to that, aside from maybe like one or two posters.
Okay.
But yeah.
And how was it for the Black Flag community? How did they notice it, or how did they like loved it?
The Black Flag community loved to say, God, what's the guitar player's name? I don't remember, but that guy is going to sue you. That's what they would say. So there wasn't like, we love it, we hate it. It was, you are going to get sued. But it turns out that, I don't know if this fell under parody or what, but I'm sure it was legally fine, or otherwise it never would have seen a light of day.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's crazy though. But yeah, I did. But did somebody ever like say something? Hey, it was a cool idea though. I like the movie or something like that. And in that regard, who's from Black Flag? Okay.
No, that would be cool though.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone wants to reach out and give me a thumbs up, I'll gladly take it.
But well, maybe it's gonna happen in the future. Maybe this. I'm gonna tag him, see what's happened. What's gonna.
Hey, if you believe it, it'll happen.
Yep.
Will it into existence.
Exactly. That's the best way. Okay. So those are the three pieces I wanted to talk about with you, and now I want to get into more of like the person. Who are you? So how did it all start out with you becoming an artist? Did you go to university? Did you have an apprenticeship? Are there going to be some pictures from college time?
There's all of those things.
Great.
Every single one of those boxes are going to get checked. Yeah, I've been drawing since I can remember, and like I was growing up watching like the X-Men animated series and Transformers and Batman the animated series, all those sorts of things, and I would sort of emulate.
Did you rewatch it?
That on paper and
the X-Men series?
Which one?
The X-Men series, since it's on Disney Plus.
I haven't. I remember I downloaded a torrent of it maybe like 10 years ago. I think I got through like the second half of that Night of the Sentinels episode, and I just couldn't do it.
Okay.
I think it's worth another shot, but I don't know. Some of those things are just better left in the past. And like I mentioned earlier, like I love Transformers and everything, but that's another one where, as an adult, you realize like, oh, this is just a toy commercial. But it's great. But yeah, like I started out that way, replicating like comic book drawings, and then taking classes at the museum. My parents were really, really cool about encouraging me to pursue whatever I really felt I was passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And we played hockey for a while, and that was something that I thought for a while. I was like, man, I'm gonna be a pro athlete, but that went away around high school. But the other thing that happened during high school is I started going to shows and playing in bands, and then I went to art school, and there's a great photo of me from performance art class.
Yeah,
which is
I just
pulled it up. Totally art school thing.
I pulled it up
where I was just, I don't know if you can get sound in this, but what I was doing for this particular assignment, I don't remember what the assignment was, but it was me just bobbing my head with those weird sunglasses on to the "Oh Yeah" song from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
And shoving these sandwiches into my face.
Did you actually eat some of them, or was it just in your face?
I ate a couple of the first ones I remember, but it eventually became just me just shoving these like ketchup covered buns like against my lips repeatedly and just sort of mashing them there and just bobbing my head like this until the song was over. I don't remember, something to do with like a public performance thing. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like the most art school shit ever. But another art school thing is like you play in a band, you take a digital art class, and you're like, I'm gonna make a shirt for my band for like the assignment, and that was like the first like real sort of idea where I was like, oh, I could do this. Like this could be where I go.
Yeah,
and then from there I took. Go ahead.
Which art school was it, by the way?
I went to the Cleveland Institute of Art, which at the time was a 5-year school. Now it's a 4-year school.
Okay.
I don't know why I bring that up, but I'm going to say 5 years better than 4 years. How about that? Because I paid for it.
I'll take it.
But yeah, but at any rate, I had done that a couple of times where I was sort of taking school assignments and trying to figure out how to, use them for other purposes. And in most cases, it was like turning it into like a demo cover for somebody else or something like that. And that's sort of where I figured out, okay, this is what I'm interested in doing. This is what I want to study. And I got really into learning about visual communication. And I took on some freelance work that I got through the school and then through some friends. Like I had, because of like the music scene, I don't know if you're familiar with DROPCAST at all, but he did a lot of.
Nope, I don't think so.
You might want to look him up. Big deal, like gig poster artist, like did a lot of tour posters and stuff like that in the early 90s. Lots of like punk metal stuff. But at any rate, he's a Cleveland artist. He went to the same school that I went to. His studio was in the same building as a print shop where my very good friend LT still works. And I met Derek and his manager through that, and his manager Marty gave me a lot of work reformatting Derek's artwork, putting it on a flyer. Like I remember I did a bunch of like Warped Tour posters, which was like super crazy to me at the time because I was like, I don't know, like a sophomore in art school, and I'm working on these Warped Tour posters. But it was really just me taking Derek Hess's artwork and then putting a bunch of text really badly around it in the corner because I still didn't understand composition at the time. It was like, well, this kid knows how to use a computer, so he seems cool. We'll give it to him. But it's not like my name was on it or anything like that. So it never wound up in the portfolio. But I was able to, network that way, build up a lot of referrals, and not all of it was exciting as Warped Tour and stuff like that. But
that's cool.
I had built up a pretty good body of work by like the time I was in my 3rd year of school. And that's when it was time to pick a major. And at the time, I didn't feel like I was going to get enough out of the visual communication department in the school, which I verbalized to them, which is something that I would not do now because it's incredibly rude and arrogant. And I was sort of like put in my place about it, which deservedly so. But I ended up not taking that on as a major, and I took on animation instead, and instead took more elective courses. And I think it worked out for the best because I think a lot of the things that carry through my work is that people mentioned there's a lot of energy in it. And I don't have a really strong way of describing how that's done other than applying that same sort of like squash, stretch, exaggeration from animation into a single image, which you kind of can't do because you need multiple frames to do it. But like the idea that like if I wanted to communicate that I'm going to throw a ball and I'm going to throw it hard, I'm not going to put it here. I'm going to put it back here.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to stylize the lines in a way so that it's not going to be completely 100% comically correct. I'm going to make it more of like a 45-degree angle and create more tension that way.
Yeah.
And that's something that I learned from like trying to apply everything that I had learned in school into something that wasn't quite the major. And I think maybe that's where that energy comes from.
Yeah.
But to continue the story, I had developed a pretty good body of work at that point. I got an internship, and then I turned that into a part-time job. And then I worked there after graduation for like 4 or 5 years. And there was a guy named Jeff Finley that worked there, and he was like really, really in tune with like doing t-shirt and merch design and stuff like that. He wrote a book about it. I remember he was like the first person to tell me about Twitter and like 2008.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was really like on top of it, and then he had reached out to this film studio out in the UK called All Steady Media,
Yeah.
and they had done like a lot of one sheets and stuff like that. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but they were opening a new space, and they wanted to have an exhibition, and they had come up with this idea where they're going to have all these different artists doing like their take on a movie that they had done like a one sheet for. And Jeff had talked to him about it, and he was in there, and he got in there, and I was like, well, I want to do that.
Yeah.
But they didn't ask for me. They didn't know who I am. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So I did a poster for American Splendor just for the heck of it, just like trying to figure it out. And I remember the person at All City had like sent me some notes on it, and they were smart. And then at the time I looked at his signature and his email, and that's when I actually looked at the site, and I was like, oh wow, this is like sort of what I wanted to do, because it was more like a traditional one sheet sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then when the show actually went live, I think that was the first time I saw a Tyler Stout poster. I was like, oh shit. And I have that poster in the house somewhere. It's for Let the Right One In.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh wow, that's cool. And then I learned more about what he was doing, and then I saw a lot of the early Alamo stuff where he did RoboCop and some other ones like Total Recall, and I forget what else there was. But shortly after that was when Mondo sort of exploded onto the scene with like the Star Wars stuff,
Yeah.
like the original stuff.
Yeah. Did you start collecting there at this point as well, or because you told me earlier
No,
that you
I
you're an
tried.
avid collector?
Well, that was the first experience I had with what many people deal with now, where it's, I went to buy this and it's not there. What do you mean $200 on eBay? Like it had happened to me, and I was like, oh wow. And I didn't understand at the time because it was like, I don't know, 2009 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that was something that I was interested in. I was more interested in doing that than, laying out brochures and stuff like that. But I didn't know how I was going to get there.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I can draw pretty well. I can lay out stuff pretty well. But I have no idea how to get from where I am to there. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and draw for fun in the meantime. And that's what I did. And I posted a lot of just small drawings onto Flickr at the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I was ready or had good enough work to reach out to Mondo or anything like that at the time. Also, I didn't know who the fuck I would even reach out to, because it's, again, there's like, I think LinkedIn had just started, and then they're not going to be on LinkedIn. And companies weren't really using Twitter like they are now at the time, so there was nowhere to reach. Excuse me.
Yeah.
What was I saying? Oh, so I had looked at the forum on gig posters, because that was a site that I was looking at, every day as part of my routine, just to see new work. And there was a posting from Spoke Art, which is a gallery out in San Francisco, and I think they're in New York now.
Mm-hmm.
They are in New York now, sorry.
Yeah.
And they were doing this Quentin Tarantino Coen Brothers show, and there was like a call for entries, and I emailed and I said, hey, this is something I'm interested in. And at the time I had already done one poster for myself, which was based around LeBron James leaving Cleveland.
Yeah.
The
king is dead,
huh?
Like, was this
yeah, I was real butthurt about a grown making a decision for himself.
Yeah.
For some stupid reason. But anyway, I at least channeled it into a piece of artwork rather than just like setting a jersey on fire.
Yeah. How are you now with the situation that he came back, won the championship, and now went and left again?
I had season tickets the whole time he came back, and I was like right in the middle of it, so I couldn't be more satisfied.
I have to say, speaking of LeBron James, I had my first NBA game was his season high or career high at that point against New Jersey, 41 points, almost a triple-double. That was the first NBA game, actual NBA game I watched. That was crazy.
In Cleveland?
Yeah, in Cleveland. 2000
Cool.
and 2003, 4 this season. This is like his first year.
Oh wow! So he was like
his rookie
so
year.
he was a rookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. My friend that I mentioned earlier that also knows Derek.
Yeah.
We had gone to see LeBron play in high school and thought it would have been funny to boo him.
Did you?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, you did.
It was at like they had like I don't even remember if I don't even think it was like a playoff game or anything like that. It was when LeBron was still in high school. We're the same age.
Yeah.
So I was a senior in high school, and he played. His high school was like maybe like I don't know, like a half an hour from where we were.
Yeah.
And they had their game at the same arena where like a college team plays, and it was packed.
Yeah.
Like the hype was real back then. We're like, we're gonna boo this guy, and then it turns out like he ended up getting drafted by our team and everything, and play out the way it did. But yeah, I had season tickets, and I was really happy with everything, of course.
Mhm.
And if the dude wants to go play for the landmark marquee team in a league, go do it, man. I don't blame him. Like I left Cleveland too.
Yep.
I don't think there's anybody like burning pictures of me anywhere.
He took his talents to Austin.
No, that would be cool. Yeah, fuck that dude.
Yeah,
now he's in a tight room.
you maybe should have announced that in the art world that that is going to happen at the Boys and Girls Club.
I'm so terrible with announcements anyway. I probably would have like sent it to like the wrong list of people and like put a typo in my name or something. Who knows? What were we talking about? Oh, LeBron. Oh yeah, the spoke art thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had done one print. I'd paid for the printing myself, which was like not something that I ever really remember thinking about. It's like, okay,
yeah,
clients usually paid for this sort of thing when we were doing it at work. And I was like, oh, it's expensive to print your own stuff. And I see why people just, set up print shops in their garage. They can do it whenever they want.
Yeah.
And that was something that I wish I probably would have spent more time doing. And there's no reason I can't do it now. I have the space. It's just,
yeah.
I don't know. But and so I had that experience under my belt. I was like, I'll do another one. And I did that Jules, I don't remember his last name. Someone's going to make fun of me for it. But what does Marcellus look like? Does he look like a bitch? That thing.
Mm-hmm.
It did well. I sold them all, which was a shocker. And then Spoke Art did another one. I did another series of them. They all sold really well.
Yeah. You're talking about the Amores Perros, right? This one.
Oh, that was what I did for that All City Media show.
Oh, okay. That's gonna be later. Okay.
No, that was I skipped it.
Yeah, you skipped it. So I was like, I was wondering a little bit when is that gonna come in? But
I lost the screen thing. That's why.
It's okay. I'm gonna put it in there so people will see what I'm talking about. Because you did this beautiful poster for Amores Perros, Loves a Bitch.
Have you seen that movie?
I haven't. No, I don't know that movie.
It's pretty good.
Is it pretty good? Okay. Yeah,
yeah, that's what it was. Now I remember. I got it out of order. Yeah, when that guy reached out to All City about doing it, it was because they were doing something with that movie. It might have been like a DVD like re-release or something. Because I remember that everybody at the agency was doing their own take on that movie.
Okay.
And then they came back and asked about the gallery thing, and that's where I saw Tyler Stout's
There we
work.
go.
Yeah, I had to put my own puzzle pieces back together in order.
And you also.
But now we're at the part where.
You also did the Frankenstein. Is that also part of it, or?
No, that was something that I was starting to like adapt more of like that vintage, classic 60s, 70s one sheet look into other places. So in this case, it was some band like.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly, but it was like okay, they wanted to do this movie or you sort of riff on their album packaging and.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is actually like really fun to draw inspiration from that. And it sort of, built the foundation that was something that I wanted to chase after.
Yeah. All right.
And then
back to you.
Those Spoke Art prints doing as well as they did led me to think that I could do that full time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is what I wanted to do. Like this is it. And so I left the agency. And then I did all this stuff with these galleries.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like not thinking clearly and thinking through it, and just because the galleries take 50%, and you still have to pay for the print. At least back then, it was like you pay for the printing, you pay for the shipping, you don't get paid an art fee for making the art.
Wow, that's crazy.
So the split's not quite what you think it is. But I wasn't thinking about that because the first couple of prints I did sold out, so I had the money in my pocket.
Yeah.
Cool. I can I rent with this. I can pay my bills with this. I can turn this into something. But then I did all this other gallery stuff that summer after I had gone freelance, and I was on the hook for all this printing money. And I remember Gallery 1988 was doing a Pee Wee Herman show, and I hadn't done anything with them yet. And I remember that was like a goal at the time.
To do some Pee Wee Herman
cool.
or with them?
With them.
Okay.
And I was like, oh shit, I'm in there. This is a big deal. The last couple of prints I did sold really well, but I didn't print that many of them. How about I really up it this time and I print 500?
Okay.
Why the fuck did you print 500 Pee Wee Herman prints? And they weren't that good. They weren't that good. Like, the art wasn't that good. And I wasn't thinking about it. And, I rushed to get it done. They were printed really close to the show's deadline. I had to expedite the shipping, and that was astronomical with how heavy that box was.
Oh my God.
And then the show opens, and I sold, like 8 of those things?
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so there was a lot of stuff like that. Like, that was the worst one, but it kept happening, and I didn't really learn my lesson. And it eventually came to the point where I had to go back to working for an agency.
Uh-huh.
And then I sort of slowly started reaching out to publications like ESPN and some other sports-related things, and I had built up some other like local referrals that paid pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was able to leave that place and try freelancing again. And then it slowly built up to the point where I was able to get in touch with working with Mondo on some smaller things.
Okay. Is you have this one, the Marius Thomas piece, is that from the ESPN era?
No, that was like right around when Green Room came out.
Oh, okay.
And it was someone over at Under Armour had stumbled upon that whole thing because they did this campaign where they're going to screen print these posters, and I remember Ken Taylor did Cam Newton, and
okay, cool.
I think some like a Hydro 74, somebody else like did Julio Jones. It was like a whole bunch of players.
Yeah.
But they didn't really like do anything with the campaign as far as I know, because that's another one of those things where they're like, we're going to do this crazy campaign. We're going to print all these posters and we're going to send you this box. And I didn't get anything. I want to see that. I want to see all those football guys running around on paper, and I never saw it.
Okay, man. Too bad. Are you
right,
are you a football fan?
That happens. Unfortunately.
How are you on the Browns? I stuck with them.
That's the unfortunate part.
I stuck with them.
That's the unfortunate part.
Yeah.
Well, after it's almost like an infection.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to get rid of if you start like paying attention and like you give even like the slightest, you care a little bit. It's hard to get rid of it. It's hard to get it out.
But I mean,
I've been trying not to care about that team for about 15 years. And every year it's just the same old thing. I'm like, oh man, football season's coming around. I'm not going to watch. And then it starts and I'm just glued to it.
But I mean,
like, even as like, I disagree with just about everything that league does. Like, it's not like the best in terms of like the big major sports. And I pay the most amount of attention to it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I like the worst team.
Come on, we're not the worst anymore.
I don't know, man.
Come on, look, who was worse? The Jets.
Time.
Yeah, but I mean, still, but I mean, in terms of that we have a shot at something. I mean, last season.
Right now, yeah.
Last season was like.
But that's.
Baker Mayfield should have done better.
That's the thing about the Browns, though. That's the thing about the Browns. They've lost every single way possible, and last season was just like the next version of that, where you had, instead of having like the shittiest team in the league, you had the most talented team in the league on paper, and it was the same result anyway. So you had a level of hype that hasn't been there before, and it still let you down.
Yeah, that was horrible. I don't know. Let's call it a sophomore slump for Baker Mayfield, and hope he's going to get back on track this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Me too.
but not too hard. I don't want to be disappointed.
Yeah,
I hope there is a season. I would think there's going to be, but
yeah.
anybody gets sick.
Yeah, a couple of people opted out of the contracts. I heard like a couple like Kansas City Chiefs players opted out of the contract, and yeah, for the whole season. So it's crazy stuff. What's going on?
All of the New England Patriots have opted out.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
The entire team, pretty much.
That's I mean, because I read an article or like the headline at least that it's Bill Belichick's doing that he has something planned, something crazy.
Yeah, tank for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, exactly, and have a new Brady maybe, but who knows? But yeah,
Yeah,
back to your art. So, um, you
we
spent
can talk football.
we
It's fun.
we could do football.
We can get into fantasy players. We can talk about all that stuff.
Oh, there you go. I was just wanted to ask, are you playing fantasy?
Too much. Too much.
Oh, I had.
I'm trying not to pay. I'm not trying to get involved. Like this is right around the time where I start like reading things,
Yeah.
like the end of July,
Okay. Yeah. Good.
and I'm just trying to resist
I listen.
because it's in most ways it's a distraction from working, like just to
Yeah.
give myself like a 10-minute break, 5 minute, 15-minute break, and it
Okay.
becomes 2 hours.
Yeah. I
And
listen.
I'm not trying to do that, especially
I
if there's not going to be a season.
listen. I listen to a couple podcasts. I mean, like fantasy
ones?
podcasts. Obviously the Matthew Berry ESPN Classic, and I listen to Fantasy Pros.
With Bobby Sylvester.
Exactly, Mike Tagliere.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the boys. I like them. They're fun, and
Yeah, those guys are so abrasive. Like I feel like if those guys spoke that way about any of those players and they heard it, they would beat the shit out of them.
yeah, I want to see that. That would be entertaining, I guess. But
It's like you don't want to say anything mean about anybody, but at the same time, it's like these two like nerdy white guys that are talking about like numbers and stuff, and the one guy's like, "That guy's trash. He's so terrible."
yep,
Dude, you probably couldn't do what half of that guy does.
exactly. But yeah, it's always crazy with the when they talk, but they have good analysis in terms of fantasy, I have to say. And yeah,
Sure.
we have a couple friend of mine. We have a fantasy league since I think last season was our 10th anniversary. So
Wow.
and sadly, I had the worst outcome this year since we started this league. I was really disappointed. I came in now we are like 12 teams, and I came in 6th place, and yeah, it was like horrible in terms of because I'm used to being top 4 every year, and yeah, so it's like kind of like but we have another league. It's a vampire league, and I won the vampire league. At least that happened.
Oh, I don't know what a vampire league is, but it sounds like it sucks. You get it?
Yeah, exactly. But it's it's a vampire league is basically where you there's one team. We just had 10 teams, and one team cannot draft. All the others draft regularly, like snake draft, and but you have to when you draft, you have to know that you can't pick anybody up from the waivers. So basically, I was the vampire. I got left with all the waiver players, and I could like drop here and there all the players and get whoever I want. And the good thing is, if you beat a team with your vampire team, you can exchange one player, like one starting player, and you have to give the other team also a player from your starting lineup. Like if you, for example, beat like the team with Christian McCaffrey, you pick Christian McCaffrey and give him back some running back you have started, like some no-name running back.
Wow. I was just trying to make a bad dad joke about vampires and sucking, but that would suck if you had to do that.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's how I got Christian McCaffrey. And the good thing is, the dude forgot to set up his lineup because like one player got an hour before he was out, and he didn't set his lineup because it was in the middle of the night here in Germany. And I got so lucky that if he would have put that player in, I would have lost. And that's the way how I got Christian McCaffrey. So, and it was league winner. So, good for me.
Well done. I'm trying to figure out how we could segue the fantasy football talk back to artwork, but I can't think of a good one.
We could talk real quick about your Uncle Drew artwork. I really loved the movie because a big Kyrie fan, but Kyrie left Cleveland as well. What happened?
Oh man, that's some bad advice. That's all I could really say about that because that was a real cool time because
Yeah,
those two guys were really fun to watch. I remember I think I was getting like I was at a chiropractor appointment or something like that
yeah.
because it was in July. I remember I went in there, I went back to my car, and my phone had like hundreds of notifications, and it was just like Kyrie Irving demands trade. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was great, crazy times, man. It was crazy times back then. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and then I remember when the trade happened and just sort of just staring at the TV and being like, that's it. And then I was like, I bet LeBron's probably not coming back. And then I called my friend and I was like, yeah, if they ask about renewing our season tickets after 2018, let's not do that.
yeah,
We're right.
understandably, understandably. But yeah, since my blog I'm doing has also a lot of movie reviews on there, I was wondering what is the last movie you saw
I haven't
lately?
really been watching that many movies. No, we watched Palm Springs last week, and that was awesome.
Oh yeah, that we just
Yeah,
had
that
to
was a
yeah
blast.
we just had to review it. Did you get a chance to get to get a poster from the Matt Taylor one?
I didn't get it, but that was actually why I watched the film.
Oh okay,
'Cause I had seen that, and I was like, wow, that thing was nuts.
yeah,
And
good
then I looked up what it was, and I was like, oh, I would watch that.
yeah.
And I watched it. It was great.
Good thing you watched it before you watched our little talk because we had like some spoiler stuff on there
Yeah,
for all the people. Yeah, it's tough to watch if you haven't seen the movie, but it's a great movie. It's definitely one of my favorite movies of the year so far.
yeah. I like when there's hints of sci-fi and things like that.
Yeah.
It
Did
makes it fun.
would you also do love to do a movie poster for that movie?
Probably not. I think in that case, I think Matt Taylor probably knocked it out of the park. And even some of he shared all those other comps that he did, and
Yeah.
there's a couple of them where I was like, well, if I was going to do something, it would probably be that. So let's just not do that.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah,
And
I've got some other things coming up too that I'm not really in a place to take on like something like that.
mhm.
I should get some other things done first.
All right. And what are some movies you really looking forward to?
Hmm. I was really looking forward to the Green Knight,
Yeah.
and I haven't heard anything about what's going on with that
Yeah. What happened? I thought
since everything was going on. I remember it was supposed to come out
it,
probably like a month ago.
I think it was May even. Didn't they say like I think end of May? But yeah,
I don't remember. I just remember like I'm not a big trailer person. I I avoid them like the plague if it's something that I want to see
yeah. I think
because I
it was
think they
supposed
ruin movies.
to. I think it was supposed to come out on Netflix and should have been on the South by Southwest list, like to premiere
Wow.
there. So, but yeah, I don't know.
I hope I didn't miss it then because I remember Amazon was doing that South by Southwest at home thing,
Yeah,
but I think that might be for more like
yeah,
more independent stuff.
yeah.
Not that A24 is not independent, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I checked it out, but it wasn't on there because I really want to see that movie as well. And Dolly did just a poster for that. Did you see that?
I did not.
That's a great poster from Dolly. You googling it right now?
It's probably it's probably good.
It's pretty
I'm
awesome.
actually looking I'm actually looking to see what else was coming out that I wanted
Oh,
to see that
okay.
I
Oh,
can't
okay,
remember.
yeah. Like first time when I saw the Dolly poster, it was like it looked like he drew like a Jedi, like an old church. You know, those like colored glass. You know, type of
Oh, okay.
art. You know, this kind of way. And I thought it was like,
Oh yeah, it's stained glass. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I try to not do stuff for posters or do posters for movies that I haven't seen just because of what happened on with the Last Jedi and the pint glasses that I did with
oh, okay,
Alamo.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And you might have to look it up to add it in there. But again, like I told the story earlier, it's like the same story with Rise of Skywalker stuff, where
Yeah.
it was done way ahead of time, and like there were high levels of security. And I was just going on whatever was in the trailer, and I had drawn, old Luke, and he's holding a lightsaber, and he's sort of like got his other hand out. There's all these like rocks flying up around him,
Yeah.
and he's wearing an outfit that never wears in the movie.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. And so when the pint glasses came out, there was like all this stuff on like Reddit and a couple other places that were trying to like develop like, fan theories based on what I had drawn. And I was like, I had nothing to do with anything. It was just like I just drew what I thought he was going to look like.
Yeah.
And then when the movie actually came out, I just got bombarded with people asking like if I saw like a deleted scene or something, or if I had done like saw something that got canceled or written out of the movie. And it was like, no, I think I just drew the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I was like, I just don't want to deal with that again.
I understand. Yeah. But yeah, other movies that come out. Did you find anything you really looking for? I mean, Tenet. We talked about Tenet, I think.
Yeah, Tenet. Probably the Bond film, because I like those. They're fun.
All right.
What else? There was something else that I
Dune,
can't remember
maybe Dune.
what it was. Oh, it was Dune. Yeah, of course. How could I forget? Yeah, Dune's gonna be great.
Yeah.
It just checks every box.
Or Top Gun 2.
Cast sounds cool. Yeah, I forgot about Top Gun 2.
But I mean, so much stuff is pushed back this year. It's like crazy. I don't know. There's like what was left? Bill and Ted is left.
Yeah, Bill and Ted is cool. I'm a little bit skeptical when it comes to Bill and Ted and Top Gun 2, because it reminds me a lot of like I don't know if you got into like At the Drive-In or Refused or any of those sorts of bands, but like those older bands that were huge in like the late 90s and early 2000s that like people loved, and then they went away for a long time, and they came back with a new record. And the new record, it could be brilliant and it would still feel
not right.
Yeah. And I get the same sort of vibe from both of them. Without that's just me. Like without really looking into it, I'm sure they're gonna be fine.
I totally understand. I'm also scared because like a lot of things can go wrong here and have like make it weird.
It's a similar thing. Like I remember somebody said something about Michael Keaton coming back for like a Batman Beyond film or something like that. Playing Bruce. I'm like, that's cool. That's a good idea. And I'm like, but what if he blows it?
But
will it have been worth it?
He's been Batman before, so maybe there's a good chance.
That'll probably be a good version of what we're talking about. I'm sure the Bill and Ted movie is gonna be great.
Yeah.
I was trying to find something. I don't remember what I did with it, but I have like a little like commemorative Top Gun 2 coin that I got from a thing I did that might or might not appear in the movie.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, then looking forward for that.
Yeah. It's not in the trailer though. I can tell you that.
Okay, crazy. But how did that happen?
I don't remember exactly. I don't remember exactly what I'm allowed to talk about or not. I just remember it being like, "Don't mess around."
Okay.
Yeah, there was a guy that had bought a print of mine, and I typically send things out in like big batches. I try to do them all at the same time, which sometimes leads to me getting behind schedule pretty often, which I feel very guilty about usually. So what I'll do is I'll throw in some extras. So chances are if you buy something from me and it doesn't come out right away and you don't get it right away, you might end up getting like a small extra print in there or something like that.
That's cool.
And there was this guy out in LA that had bought something and I wasn't paying any attention to it. And I had done that and I had thrown in an extra print. And it turns out that he had gifted it to somebody. And then that person reached out to me and was like, hey, we have a need for this thing in this movie coming out. Would you be interested? It's more like it's a prop. It's not like they bought a poster or anything like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. And that was that.
Okay, that's cool. That definitely we will have to explore that when it's time.
Yep. If it comes up.
Yep.
Or the movie comes out and it doesn't come up, then I can show you, but we'll have to wait until it comes out.
That's what we have to do. Okay, perfect. Sounds good to me.
Thank you for reminding me that I did that though, because I forgot. Because one of the problems with like working relentlessly,
Yeah.
like I do, is that I forget that I even did things.
Yeah. Alrighty. Speaking
But now
of,
I have a break, and now we're talking, and it's good.
yeah. See, there you go. So that'll be some reflection time here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of art and artwork, and do you have any other favorite posters right now? It could be anything from alt posters to key art that you really like that came out maybe lately or something like that.
I'm a huge fan of. I don't even know if they are like official one sheets or
Mm-hmm.
if they were like alt takes from when the movies actually came out. But like, there's just that whole grip of like Polish film posters that are just
Yeah. Yeah.
bonkers. Like I don't. They're so nuts that I don't understand. I think they got to be some sort of like fan thing.
Yeah.
Because
Which,
it's just so crazy. Like there's that Weekend at Bernie's thing where it's just like the hand and there's eyes on it,
yeah.
and the alien poster where it's just a pair of eyeballs on a rib cage. Like you would never be able to get that past like any sort of studio
Yeah.
executive or like
Yeah. I
any
just,
person. Like this is just too crazy, and it doesn't look like anything that's in the film.
yeah, but it's a
Maybe
crazy,
it's just like a local theater being like, "Yeah, we're showing this," but they look phenomenal. They're so weird,
yeah.
and the compositions are so crazy.
Yeah.
It's something that I try to keep in the back of my head while I'm trying to like come up with something. Not so much that like I want to ape that, because again, like you don't want to start looking for inspiration and you start accidentally copying people's work. I mean, it happens, but in this case, it's like, oh man, like it'd be real cool to do whatever like the brief is and have like that sort of weird twist on it where some of the stuff in the composition that you normally find in like the top
mm,
center or top or the bottom center is in like a weird spot or upside down or in an arc or
yeah.
there's like a ton of negative space. I get a lot of it out of those. um, huge fan of the Little Miss Sunshine one sheet.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the perfect poster just in terms of composition.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a huge flood of color. The tagline is sort of a pun on what happens in the film, but you can also figure that out because it's, what does it say, like a film about a family on the verge of breaking down,
Yeah.
and it's a bunch of people running after a van. And just like the way it's cropped, like there's a guy that's coming off the frame, like you can look at that and see like the hand coming off the edge or the foot coming off the edge or the van coming off the edge and be like, oh, that's where he got the idea to crop the finger off in green room.
Yeah.
Like there's like a 1-to-1 comparison there. Like that's like the sort of like inspiration thing I'm talking about that like you end up doing when you're not thinking about it. I love that. I love the Funny Games one sheet. Funny thing about, pun not intended, I saw that on, there was this website called Found, and it had like 5 F's. So it was like Found.
Yeah.
And it was like the first sort of like Pinterest site.
Yeah.
It was really crude. And you had to sort of like click arrows to get to the next thing, but it would like come up with suggestions of images based on what you had saved.
Yeah.
And that's how I stumbled onto that. And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Just like the composition of it was really striking to me because at the time, I don't remember seeing a whole lot where you saw a whole lot of posters where you saw like the title and a tagline and the credit block, like right in the middle of the composition, like that, used as a graphic element instead of just being like a visual requirement or a contractual requirement.
Yeah.
It was super creative. And I ended up not really thinking a whole lot. Like I bookmarked it on just about everything, and then like down the road, I found out that it was done by Akiko Sterenberger.
Oh yeah.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Really sorry if I
I
brutalized it. I was like, holy crap! Like I want to be her when I grow up. Like her work's incredible.
yeah. She's.
and she does just about everything. All sorts of different media. Like
Yeah. I want to have her on the show as well. So she's on the list. I have to talk to her soon, but
yeah, that was one of those instances where I'd stumbled onto that poster, loved it, didn't know what to do with it because at the time it was like, I don't know, 2010 maybe.
mm-hmm.
And then down the road, when like Pinterest became a thing and Instagram started to become more of a platform for images rather than photos.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I discovered like her work as a whole, and I was like, whoa, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, great. And did you or do you have these one sheets at home in that regard? Because like I mean, since it was one of your
I
favorites.
should. I don't. Again, it's one of those things where you bookmark something
Yeah.
and you think it's cool, but there's not really a spot there's no call to action to do anything about it because it's, on Pinterest or found or
Yeah.
Twitter or whatever it is. But I guess Twitter would have a link to a store, but in this case, there wasn't. So I just bookmarked it and moved on.
Mm.
And like I mentioned when we were talking, like when I collect things, I sort of just go through like spurts where I'll like buy a whole bunch of toys for like over like 2 months, or I'll buy a couple of sneakers and then not do it for 6 months. And in this case, it was anytime I was doing posters, that stuff wasn't in the front of my head while I was doing it, so I wouldn't buy it. But I might have to go look for it when we're done.
Yeah, I mean,
because I should really have it, just to have it. Like some things I just have to have. I don't really have like a ton of stuff on the walls while we're still filling things out in the house here. But there are places for that.
Yeah, or put it on the Facebook on the Facebook groups. People probably have it. I mean, there are tons of movie poster groups, and just also the one sheet ones, and yeah, they probably have those.
It's a little bit easier to find one sheets.
Yeah.
In terms of like actual like stuff that I have collected, I bought. I don't know if you saw the Bruce Lee box set that Criterion just came out with.
I don't think so.
Oh, you're gonna want to look it up.
Okay, who did it?
Gene Galang.
Okay.
Giangalang. Super good dude. I met him in New York. He came to my talk. I was blown away that he was there because I was a huge fan of his work.
Is it this old like? Oh, I think I see. I got it. I think I got it. There's a sneak peek on. I found it.
I mean, it's out there. If you just search Criterion Bruce Lee, it should.
Yeah, I got it. I'm just gonna pop it in real quick for the people to see what we're talking about. This is the Bruce Lee one, and this looks amazing. Like the with his kicks and like the style he does, like in this like landscape kind of.
Yeah,
it looks amazing.
I bought the painting. I bought the painting that is the cover.
Oh, okay, crazy, cool.
So I got to get that up on the wall.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
I'm real pumped about that.
What is the color in the background? Is it like a pinkish color?
It's yellow.
It's yellow.
Yellow. It's supposed to be like
Okay.
It's the whole thing's supposed to be like a yellow, black, white play on the Game of Death suit.
No. I mean on your wall in the back.
Oh, on my wall. That's a Mike Mitchell.
No. The color. I mean the color of the wall color, wall paint.
Oh, it's gray.
It's gray. Okay.
It's gray
because it looks pink, and I could imagine like the pink would look very awesome with the yellow from the Bruce Lee.
Oh, hold on. I didn't realize I still have my night light on. Let me change it.
The night light.
Should be the night light for night work.
You got the U light. Oh, now you can see. That's great.
Yeah,
that's
but
true.
like this house has like fans in it that we have to replace. So like the hue light that I have here only has 2 hue bulbs in it and 2 regular ones. It just looks super shitty. So we're slowly like replacing everything in the house.
Okay.
Over the course of the quarantine, we haven't quite gotten there yet with the fans, but we're getting there.
All right. But all good. I have the U lights everywhere, so I know the feeling, and I bounce off like because I have a white wall right in front of me, and I bounce off the light, so I'm lit basically correctly, and that's how it works. So
switch to headphones. These are about to die.
Okay. And back.
Still working?
Still working fine.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Be prepared.
Yep. So we stopped at funny games and all the cool posters you really enjoy, and I was wondering what is the last piece that you bought yourself, or that you traded maybe because artists trade.
I don't really trade too much unless it's at a convention because then it's convenience. But I bought that Bruce Lee painting, and then I bought a couple of
Milton Glaser posters after he passed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put those up. It was dumb. I could have just bought the Bob Dylan record with the poster in
Yeah.
it, and that would have been cheaper than buying one mounted on linen. But I wasn't really thinking about it. I was like, I just have to have this right now.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I know the feeling.
And then I was like, oh, buyer's remorse. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's the last piece of artwork that I bought. But it's not up on the walls because I still have to get around to buying frames, which is, you know how that goes. You buy the piece of artwork and you really, but then it shows up and you're like, well,
Yeah.
I'll buy the frame someday.
Yeah. But as people know from the background, there's I bought tons of frames. So, but they're maybe not like
Yeah.
the super museum type UV glass 5 million frames, but um, sometimes you have to at least I know that there's not any sun getting on there, so the prints are fine in that one.
I'm the same way though. If I had a frame to put these things in that would fit them, I would just put them in it and put it on the wall. Otherwise, it's going to sit in a flat file for a while,
Yep.
and I've got plenty of other things that are sitting in there.
That's right. Yeah, and you mentioned you collect as well. Is there any particular artist that you collect in that regard, or do you just like collect what you like, basically, in terms of movie posters?
I just sort of collect what I like. I'm still not quite sure what we're going to do with like the artwork situation in the new place here, because at the old place we had just sort of put up whatever and collected it over time because we'd been there for 5 years, and then
Yeah.
here I'm trying to be a little bit more deliberate about it and not put up movie posters everywhere so it doesn't seem like a giant man cave.
Yeah. Oh, my
But then
my apartment is a giant man cave then now.
No, I mean yours is a little bit more tasteful than mine would have been,
Thank you.
just based on my collection. But that's what I'm trying to put a lid on,
Yeah.
and just be a little bit more conscious about the things that are going up on the wall. Maybe more art prints, more paintings, more things like that. Less Batman,
Okay.
I guess.
How's the wife about it? How does she like this kind of style? Or does she like really say, yeah, this stays in your place. Let's keep it there in your office or whatever?
She, as long as it's aesthetically pleasing, she's usually pretty on board. For me, it's like I don't want to put up a ton of stuff that has like
Yeah.
intense screaming faces and blood and stuff like that, just because there's the kiddo in the house.
Yeah, sure.
But then I wasn't thinking about it, and like I mentioned, I have that Let the Right One In poster, and it's around the corner from my office here, so you could just come walk down the stairs and see like there's like a little kid drinking blood on it, and I'm like, oh, I put that up without thinking about it. So yeah,
Yeah,
try not to do that. A couple places is okay. The whole house, no.
Okay, perfect. And how does your? I mean, we can see a little bit of your office, but is there anything you want to still put up in your office, or because it's like kind of half done since you moved in, right?
Yeah, the office is still very much a work in progress. Like I barely put together places to put things. I definitely would like to put up that painting I mentioned that I bought, but also I would like to get some sort of setup so I could actually just draw on paper a little bit, because I don't really do that much anymore. And there's space to put another small table in here. I mean, I could do it on this desk, but I'd rather keep it completely separate, so that it feels like a different activity and probably feels less like work.
Okay.
If it didn't feel like work, I'd probably do it more often.
Yeah, and how does your setup on your desk looks like? I mean, do you have like certain what is on there? What do you see basically?
Well, it's been moved out of the way a little bit so I can use the camera on the laptop, but I usually have the laptop either shut or put in a dock, and then it's connected to a arm and then a Wacom tablet. And then next to that is the two big flat files I have stacked up right now. There's a bunch of stuff that was on the shelf on top of it. For the most part, I try to keep it blank and clean so that if I have to roll posters, I can do that, because it's pretty high up and I can do it without having to bend over and mess my back up. But the desk for the most part is pretty clean. My schedule is on it, which I'm trying to stick to.
Yeah.
Trying to become a schedule person, which is massively helpful because for the most part, I'm like a fly by the seat of my pants sort of thing. But I've been finding that when I actually spend time writing out the things that I have to do, like even if they're as mundane as like, I don't know, clean out the garage,
Yeah.
I'll actually do it instead of like
Okay.
letting it linger around the back of my head and be like, well, maybe you should do that instead of sitting down or whatever you were doing.
Yeah.
It's a better way to get through the day without guilting yourself into doing something.
Do you have actually like pens and pencils on your desk as well in some sort of sense, or is that totally separated?
So they're back there,
Okay.
back there on the whiteboard, a couple of cups.
Yeah.
I have my 2016 NBA champion sponsored by Mountain Dew banner on there.
There you go.
The bag. Yeah, I got some other stuff. Like when Stanley passed away, I bought a bunch of comic books that were signed by him on eBay. And those are sitting in that drawer up there.
Oh, okay. That's what it is. I see.
Yeah, I do it in bunches.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, I get the feeling because like when I was doing like when I started with the podcast and stuff and like try to get more professional, I was like buying bunch of stuff I probably don't need, but like little tripods for cameras and stuff like that. And I was like figuring out how to do this, right? And then I ended up like I bought a bunch of stuff I don't really need anymore. But well, you live and learn.
It seems like it for you, though.
What's that?
You got a pretty good Instagram following now.
Yeah.
You got a pretty good Instagram following now.
Thank you.
Seems like it's doing something.
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, the podcast stuff is now on YouTube anyway, so that's where it happens right now. But yeah, I mean, it's doing the trick. A lot of people like it. I get good feedback on it, and we did like the Raid 71 live show that turned out really cool, and that was a lot of fun. Had a lot of people coming through. Yeah, good stuff. I mean,
Cool.
love the support like the artists and this kind of hobby in terms of for me as a collector. And yeah, it's a good thing to bring it to Germany, and because in Germany not many people know about this kind of collecting thing and artwork, and yeah, try to push that more and get that going. So that's one of the things I was trying.
Everybody when you do it. So
Yeah, it is.
yeah, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. So we talked about your desk. Now I want to talk about your work. I mean, we talked in the Dark Knight talk a little bit about your process, but that was a little different process. But how do you approach in general a project?
Well, I try to figure out what the goal is because I have that like design agency background where it's like, oh, think about strategy and all that bullshit. But it matters. I try to think about that first and foremost. So if it's, a board game that we're doing, it's how do we figure out a way to use visuals to communicate the function of a card without having to read the card. So like that's the goal. And then we have like a specific character or something like that. And then I'll brainstorm or like brain dump or stream of consciousness into my schedule or like the notepad on my computer or my phone, just sort of let it rip. And then I'll come back and make a note of like maybe like a handful of like pretty decent ideas and then turn them into thumbnail sketches. And then if something's working, turn that into like a real sketch that's more elevated and that someone other than me can understand, because a lot of these things are incredibly crude and rough. Like if I had showed you the sketch that led to like that idea of turning the Black Flag logo into the Green Room thing, you would be like, I don't know how the hell you got there.
Okay, yeah.
Because even looking at it now, I'm like, I don't know how I got there. But that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Because it just might have been one of those things where you get out of your head a little bit by using your hands to draw something, even if it's not what ends up being the final product. But I think maybe that's what gets the wheels turning in your head to connect those last couple of dots together and like, oh, there's the idea.
Okay.
But because it's really about the idea, because and there's countless people that can draw better than me. Like doesn't matter. Like I'm okay. But it's really about the
Yeah,
idea.
that's what I have to say. That's for me, like the ideas behind the alternative movie posters and how they incorporate something from the movie that is dear to me, or that like that gives me like puts a smile on my face when I see it, because I know the idea and the concept behind it. That's like what is most important to me in a movie poster. So I really appreciate
Right.
that.
And then in that regard, it's, are you actually adding to the conversation, or are you just remixing what's already been said? Like for example, I would never make a Little Miss Sunshine
Yeah.
poster, because why would I
Hmm.
need to? Because I think what's already there is like is perfect. It communicates everything it needs to. The Green Room poster is cool. It's a riff on that Clash
Hmm.
cover, which is maybe like how I got to the Black Flag thing, but it was also an assignment, so there was
Yeah.
that. But it's still, it's like what are you adding to the conversation? Like are you elevating it, or are you just sort of remixing these things and spitting them back out? And there's nothing wrong with that either, because that can do the
Yeah.
same thing. Like a lot of these collage posters that you see that are just sort of like big head here, guy looking that way, guy looking that way. Some of them are really successful
Hmm.
because they still manage to capture that same idea of like communicating the story in a single image. But then some of them are just a collage of,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then it's like, this doesn't quite land the same.
Hmm.
And it can look fine, but I think it's really about like, what are you trying to say?
Hmm. Yeah. How much time do you plan for kind of such a project? Is it always different for you, or do you always say like basically, yeah, I want to be done in 2 weeks?
I would love to be done with something in 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's my schedule's been such a mess since like 2017. I just sort of been taking things on
Hmm.
without really considering how long they're going to take, and it's been like a slow learning process to be like, no, you have to be honest with yourself. Like,
Hmm.
don't say yes because you want to do this. Say, I don't know because it's going to take me 3 weeks, and I already have these 3 weeks booked. So it's really been like 3 years of that, where it's like, okay, when are you going to be honest with yourself and say, no, you don't have
Yeah.
time?
I would.
Because I hit like a breaking point with that after the move and everything. I was really burnt out, and there was that Unmatched board game series that I had been working on, and there was another Jurassic Park set that was going to come out.
Hmm.
And I had, we had meetings and sketches and stuff, and they were ready to go, and I just couldn't do it. Like there just wasn't time in the day after moving down here and then doing all the traveling, and then some of the, like there was a Godzilla show and some other stuff,
Hmm.
and they ended up giving it to somebody else, and it looks phenomenal, I'm sure. But I still feel like sort of sad about it, because it was like that was a project that I said yes to,
Hmm.
knowing full well that I probably should have said no to. And then it sort of went, no one was upset or anything, but like at the same time, I feel like I had let somebody down by
Yeah.
allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking to avoid.
Yeah.
So that also means like taking breaks to recharge my batteries, which is also something that I haven't
Sure.
really done much of.
Okay.
Because it also makes my process more efficient when I'm rested,
Yeah.
rather than banging my head against the wall, just like squeezing blood out of a rock, like, well, let's get it done. Like,
Hmm.
doesn't really work that well.
Yeah. Is there something you would definitely say no to like project wise?
There's tons of stuff to say no to. It's not so much about like what the project is, it's more about like the specifics. Like, for example, for me, I have to be honest whether something aligns with stuff that I'm interested in, or is it just like a shiny object, like the fancy client name,
Hmm.
or something like that. For example, like this even happened a couple of years ago. I had the first couple of Mondo posters I did went really well, and then they had approached me about doing Beauty and the Beast, and I was like still new enough with working with Mondo that I didn't want to say no, but at the same
Hmm.
time it was like, that'll be fine. Like it'll be cool. Like that movie's cool. It's fine. It's a classic. It's a remake of the animated one. It'll do just as well as these other ones.
Hmm.
And it turns out there was a lot of hoops to jump through, and even like in the conceptual stage, like we picked something that I didn't feel super confident about, but I also didn't feel confident enough in myself to say this isn't the right idea. And I also didn't feel confident enough to be like, maybe the dude who was drawing a chopped up arm and then like a farting corpse in the ocean probably isn't the best guy for this Disney movie. But I didn't really think about it that way. And also, like, I didn't see that movie until it was assigned to me. Like, it wasn't one of those things that I was excited to have it in general, but like when I really boil it down, it's like this wasn't, like, I wasn't the right fit. And that's not on them so much as it's just as much on me to be like, well, we can do something else instead of this one.
But I mean, you knocked sword in the sword here, sword in the stone. I mean, out of the park. So I mean, you can do Disney. I have to say that.
Yeah, but it's not so much about like the Disney aspect of it. It's like that movie was really important to me, so like that mattered. But like I hadn't even seen this Beauty and the Beast remake. It was like,
that was for the remake.
Cool.
Oh,
sure.
I thought it was for the original one.
It would have been. It might have been the same scenario. It was like, I wasn't truly thinking about like what that piece of artwork, not even in terms of like a client project and money and budget and all that sort of thing. It's like, what does that actually mean to me as a person? Like, how do I connect with that?
Yeah.
And it wasn't the same like Beauty and the Beast 2016 or whatever it was, versus Sword and Stone that I watched at my grandma's house when I was a little kid. Not the same thing. I didn't really realize that until maybe a couple months ago.
Good.
And it's not to be like, well, they assigned it to the wrong person. It was more being like, well, I said yes without really thinking about it.
But good that you finally that you got to the point.
It's not an easy thing to do because this is a job, you know, and you want to make sure that you have things to work on so you can pay the bills, because there's that level of like uncertainty.
Definitely, but I mean, like overdoing it is also crazy. I mean, there's always more you could do, but mental health is such an important thing to not get yourself in a spot where you cannot come back from.
We're getting dangerously close to a couple months ago.
Yeah, good thing you caught the break there.
Yeah, because I think you had reached out in like April or May, and I was like, "There's just no way."
Yeah, I remember we talked about it.
Yeah. But we made it.
Good, we're here. Great. How do you like your prints to come out? By the way, is there any like special in terms of paper, color, technique?
The ones I like the most are on colored paper, but it's like the printing with a lot of these things is done in such a way that I don't think about it as much. For example, I did the Clockwork Orange variant is on orange paper, and it feels different than if you had printed a flood of orange ink on white paper. And I'd like to do more of that. I just need to be more cognizant of it in the earlier stages. Because in a lot of cases, sometimes I don't think about it, and it just, it does end up being like a flood of gray on white. Like, for example, the Godzilla regular, that should have been on gray paper, but it didn't occur to me at the time. Because again, like, I might have overloaded myself. Yeah. And I was just trying to get to the finish line once the drawing. But I mean, it looks great. But at the same time, like, there's still that level of like, did I leave something on the table here? Like, was there something that could have taken that from 97 to 99? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and is there do you do like the separations yourself, or
Oh man, I try, and then I just go until I fail at it, until stuff starts to look really bad, and then I hand it off to John Smith over at Mondo, and then he saves my ass. And Steve at DNL, and they save my ass. Like, some of those things, like, I remember I was trying to the Martian the first time. I remember sweating bullets, just being like, I can't figure this out. Figure this out. And I'd be like, I'm really sorry, guys. I can't figure out how to get the SEP to look like the PNG that I'd sent over. And they go, it's fine. We'll send it over to Steve, see what he thinks. And then I didn't hear back. And then the print showed up. And the prints look immaculate. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to do that then. I'm just and like, I've gotten better at it along the way, because there's certain things, like, you should have a level of control over those things. Otherwise, they're not going to turn out the way you had intended.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of cases where that happened, but again, that's like making sure all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I heard like because since I've been talking to a bunch of artists now, they some of them are really struggling with the separations, and they have somebody doing that for them, and or other artists do it. Like I heard like Matt Ferguson, he's like also doing a lot of separations for other people, and yeah, that's also like fun to hear that it's like a art form in itself.
Well, they're going to get hard because a lot of these posters that everybody's doing don't really look like screen printed posters anymore. Like a screen printed poster, like I think of a screen print, and I think of like something that came out in like maybe like 2004, and it's like 3 colors, 4 colors, big chunky lines, halftones, that sort of thing. And now like you have like 10 color screen prints that look like photos.
Yeah, it just came out the Ise Anafada, the Star Wars one for Bottleneck. It was an 18 color screen print.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
That's crazy.
Like I can't wrap my head around that. Like I just submitted a sketch for something that I can't really talk about, but I'd made a conscious effort to keep this thing down to like 5 colors, just so that it's not me banging my head against the wall. Like even like I was talking about with the Dark Knight stuff.
Yeah,
it got approved. And part of the reason it took 2 years to get to the finish line on that thing is like anytime like some sort of feedback came from the studio and we would change it, it would still take a while to get back to them. And then it got back to me that it was approved. And I was like, oh, fuck, I have to separate this thing now. And it's a 2-year-old file that I had started rush period. So the whole thing is a mess. And I remember it took me 2 days just to get the thing manageable to send to somebody else to set. And I don't want to do that ever again. Like it sucks. It sucks for everybody.
Yeah.
But it happens.
It does.
I mean,
it
you
does.
just get caught in the workflow. You don't start naming things, and you start painting over shit. And next thing you know, you come back and you're like, I don't remember what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
There's that Gandalf meme from Lord of the Rings where it's like loading up an old video game that you haven't played in months and just going, I have no memory of this place.
Yeah. Okay. Is there some IP or some maybe music covers, sports stuff you want to do in the future? Is this something you're really interested in?
Yeah, I would say some sort of like higher level visibility thing that I haven't done yet. Like I did key art for a show on Showtime. Again, this is one of those things where it's a cool show. It was good. I wouldn't have watched it if it wasn't an assignment.
Which one was it? Sorry.
Smilf.
Smilf. Oh yeah. I love that one. It was a fun show.
Yeah, it was great. Great project. The show's great, but at the same time, it's not something that I wouldn't have watched it unless someone was like, "Hey, do you want to do some work for this?" I want to do that project for something that I know that I like ahead of time.
Okay.
For example, like I don't know, like if Vince Gilligan was going to do a new show. That or like season 6 Better Call Saul, something like that would be cool. Doing a box set for like an iconic musical act would be cool. Like if there was like a collection of like live Bowie shows or something like that, and I did the cover, that would be sick. I would love that. Or even like that sort of thing, that would be cool. And sort of writing my own stuff, my own stories. I haven't gotten enough time together with that, but that would be cool. There's like the general sort of stuff that I wanted to do, like when I worked at an agency, would be like work on, I don't know, like a sports campaign for like with athletes that I actually watch.
Yeah. Would you also do like a comic book in that regard? Like for example, Greg Ruth and Ethan Hawke, they did their like a graphic novel thing. Is that something you would also like to do in terms of having the story?
Give it a shot. Not in terms of like inking somebody else's story, but like just like writing a short story and like seeing what happens with it.
Okay, cool.
I think it's cool. Just as an exercise.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I just because I think it was in the finishing stages where he had to draw so many panels, still for the graphic novel. And when I had the interview with Greg, and he was like, really, I have to do this. I have to work 7 days a week now to finish this book because it needs to be done. It's like crazy stuff.
Yeah, I've been there doing other things. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want it to be fun.
Yeah, but it's I mean it turned out great. I mean he's a great artist, and he also loved your work. We talked about you as well.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal. He blows my mind.
Yeah, he's.
Like he doesn't use the computer for like anything.
I know. He basically. I asked him, yeah, do you do sometimes something in Photoshop? And he said, yeah, I scan sometimes the things and do a little work, but I'm not very efficient.
Yeah, I hear things like that, and then I look at some of the things I've done on paper versus the things I've done on the computer, and I just go, yeah, maybe I'm just a digital artist.
Maybe that's the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's time for one of my favorite questions. I always like to ask all the artists, except Matt Ferguson. So shout out to Matt Ferguson for having no answer to this question. But here goes. Which classical artist would you like to see make a film poster?
Oh man, I had such a good answer, and then I don't remember it. Wait, no, I got it. I got it.
Okay,
I got
okay,
it.
okay, okay.
I got it. I would like to see Mark Rothko do Fury Road.
Fury Road, okay.
It would just be like a gray square on a black square, a little brown square, and a bigger brown square.
Yeah, or maybe the brown square would be in the back, maybe, because for the desert?
It would be one large brown
Yeah.
square with smaller brown squares.
Yeah, and then have the title treatment right there.
Yeah, also just brown squares.
Would love to see that.
Slightly redder brown squares.
This kind of style.
It's so stupid.
No, it's fine. It
would just look like Pong.
It's like it reminds me of who's doing it? Is it Mad Needle, or I forgot who the artist was, but this artist does the book, like reinterprets the movies on book covers, like how if they were book covers.
Oh, Matt Stevens.
Matt Stevens.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it'd be like that, but like 1,000 times crazier.
Yeah. I would love to see that. Maybe one day when you want a fun project, this is what you could imagine coming up with.
That'll be my passion project. Mark Rothko does movies.
Exactly. Okay.
Just be a book of squares.
Yeah, I really love the answer. Because I was I didn't want to know the answer before, and I was guessing Kandinsky, but
you were close.
I was close. Yeah,
you were close.
All right. So almost last question. Do you have any tips for beginners when it comes to hardware, software, utensils, or anything like that?
No, not hardware or utensils or anything. I guess I would suggest that you learn about composition, learn about how to communicate your ideas, just so that like you learn how to like learn the rules, I guess. So that way, when you can bend and break them into whatever you need them to be, and then it'll make sense versus just sort of winging it. Because I think for me, I work with a grid on everything, every project. I try to stick by like, rule of thirds, portions, moving things around in a certain way that like the teacher would give me a thumbs up for. and then I get it there, and then I start to move it around and break it, and see where it still works and where it stops working. And then somewhere in the middle is the stuff that everybody else sees. Yeah. And that's where the work is. Okay. But I think me like having that foundation is like absolutely critical. Just being able to communicate what you want to do visually. Yeah. Because it's like that's the skill. Yeah. Well, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like illustration. Like you don't have to be able to like nail a likeness. You can get there by practice and just by, keeping at it every day. If you keep doing something, you're going to get better at it. But I think understanding how to use a portrait within a frame is just as important. Yeah. So there's
there's a learning curve, definitely, and I think everybody has to go through it. I mean, we had a couple examples with you that you had some learning experiences.
Oh man, I've been using Photoshop forever now, and sometimes when I jump into InDesign or Illustrator or anything like that, and it's changed from a couple updates, like I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. It's like I used to use these things every day, and now they've changed in a way that like I can't even use them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if I had spent the time, like if I really got in there, like spent a couple hours and got my bearings back, I would be back in there. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the stuff that I had learned early on about composition and critical thinking is the stuff that like really, really sticks on a day-to-day basis, whether like I'm using the tools like the suite or I'm using pencils, like it still applies to both of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but definitely you're gonna get definitely a thumbs up from my perspective, because you said the teacher, and I'll give you one.
Oh yeah. You know, you gotta learn the rules.
Exactly. So the last question, or it's not a question, but the last chance I want to give you here is to give some shout outs to either artists, your friends, your family, wherever you want to shout out. Just blurt it out. It's all you. And please let the people out there know where they can find you in the end.
Okay, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter under Oliver Barrett, 2 R's, 2 T's, the maximum amount of consonants. And my portfolio is the same thing, oliverbarrett.com. And I'm completely drawing a blank on who to shout out here, because this is like one of those things where like, you use your platform to like raise other artists up. And like, I didn't write down some names, but I'm going to try to think of some that don't have 1 million followers already. And I can't. Richie Pope's work is really cool.
Yeah.
I like his work a lot. What else? Torrin Clark. He does cool stuff. He's Muad'Dib on Instagram. Another shout out to Dune. Yeah, I think you're gonna have to come back to me on Twitter and Instagram for that one, so I could actually like spend some time raising some other people up with the platform here, because I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So I just shout out everybody who's listening.
Perfect. I mean, there's like other artists like sometimes say, yeah, check out my Twitter and Instagram, because I always shout out artists there, so they don't have to do it there and they don't forget anybody. So that's the trick here. So you use that as well. I take it.
Yeah. Well, plus I said it out loud on a podcast, so now I have to actually do it like consistently rather than whenever I remember to do it.
Yeah, it's like writing down in your little schedule on your desk. So there you have it.
You just got to make it a habit.
Yep, it is what it is. Okay. Thank you so much for stopping by, Oliver, and thanks to all the listeners and viewers out there. Tune in to our next episode, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and to our IG page @DropMacOfficial. Leave us comments, shoutouts, or topics and questions for our next show. Take care, guys. Bye.